moment to lose when it comes to protecting our republic. There is not a moment to lose when it comes to protecting our future. I see it in the faces of people who come to some of my events not yet old enough to vote. 12-year-old who asked me in Orlando, what are we going to do about health care? And I thought, that's pretty cool. 12-year-old who's so dialed in on policy issues that she wants to know about health insurance. And then she explains why. And it's because she's got diabetes and she is living in fear that if her parents lose their coverage, she loses her ability to get insulin. This is what she's worrying about at the age of 12. I had a 14-year-old ask me for advice on dealing with racial tension in his suburban high school. This is exactly the kind of kid we want concentrating on what he happens to be very good at, which is technology and coding, because he could be one of the vanguard of the next generation of black tech entrepreneurs. But he explains to me that in the halls of his high school, he's getting called racial slurs. And all I'm thinking is that's not racial tension, that is abuse. It is on the rise in our country and we've got to turn it around because he shouldn't have to deal with that. I had a 5th grader just earlier today in Cedar Rapids asked me what we're going to do to keep his school safe from gun violence. And we got our gun violence plan, but the only good answer for him or for that 14-year-old boy or for that 12-year-old girl is you're not supposed to have to worry about any of this. We who are in office and we who are old enough to vote are supposed to fix this so that you don't have to worry about this, so you can concentrate on being a kid. That's what's at stake. But I'm not here to preach doom and gloom. I'm here to talk about how proud we will be if we actually get it done before it's too late. If we set ourselves up so that 10 years from now, we can look into the eyes of those kids when they are 22 and 23 and 24 and say, I'm sorry we let it get that bad, but look at what we did in 2020. Look at how we came together to deliver an economy where a rising tide really does lift all boats, and it is simply impossible to work a full-time job and be poor at the same time. Aren't you glad we took that step? So we can look back in 2020 and say, we began the earnest and serious and intentional work and put the resources behind it to address systemic racism so that your race has no bearing on your wealth or your health or your life expectancy or your encounters with law enforcement. We started doing that for real in 2020. Then after a generation of inaction, we looked at gun violence and said, this time never again really does mean never again. And we chose, instead of defying the will of the American people, to defy the NRA and put them in their place with serious gun reform. We could be so proud of what we did in 2020, but it starts now. It starts today, and it starts by reminding everyone that we need to have higher, not lower ambition right now. And that if we want to win, and if we want to deserve to win, then we got to avoid making the easiest and worst mistake we could make, taking the greatest risk we could take as a party, which is to try too hard to play it safe. This is a season for bold ideas, for good ideas, and for a different energy and commitment to the future of this country. This is a season to win the era. This is a season to set aside the show that this president's got going on, not try to go on the show and beat him at his own game, because when you're playing that game, even when you're winning, you're losing. This is the season to pick up the remote and change the channel. So can I look to you to help us change the channel? And are you committed to making sure we win not just an election, but an era for the American people? And are you prepared to reach out and tell a friend and a coworker and a classmate who has not come to this process yet and let them know just how much power they have at a time like this? Good, because I'm counting. We need that right now. Never forget that running for office, organizing for somebody running for office, even voting, and most certainly volunteering is an act of hope. And I know hope went out of style a little while ago in presidential politics because what's going on is so bleak, but this is our chance. I wouldn't be doing this if I wasn't filled with the hope of somebody who cannot afford to go back, cannot afford not to be hopeful. There is no going back. There is no again in the real world. This is about making the future work for all of us. This is about making ourselves proud of the steps we're about to take. Are you ready to spread that kind of hope across the state and across the country? Then we're going to need you in that beautiful blue and yellow office down the street. I hope I can count on you to bring more and more people into the process, and we're going to have a lot to celebrate on caucus night. Thank you for being part of this. Thank you for caring about this country. Thank you for your support, and I will see you on the trail. Thank you.